Hey, welcome to our archive edition of Chad's Beer Podcast. In this episode, I was talking to Deanna Fox, which, if you're from the Albany area, you might recognize her. She wrote for the Albany Times-Union for a good 10, 15 years. She was like a food blogger, like a restaurant critic. I know she did a lot of charity work with like local food pantries and like Ronald McDonald House and stuff like that. I forget how we just had like mutual friends because we were all in the foodie craft beer scene in Albany at the time, you know. So this is another 2-4. So it's going to be me interviewing her and then her interviewing me. This is like right around when my book came out. I remember she came over at least 2 times because I remember we did the 6-Point Rad review and the Southern Tier Grand Arbor Saison review. So I'll put links to all those. So, yeah, it's funny. I haven't talked to her in years, but actually I'm going to Albany in a couple weeks. So I will send this to her, and maybe we'll get a chance to catch up when I'm up there. If not, just enjoy this archive review. Hey, welcome to a very long overdue episode of Interview with a Craft Beer Enthusiast. I'm talking with Deanna Fox, wearer of many hats, reporter, photographer, blogger, cooking teacher, farmer.
Yeah.
Did I miss any?
That's basically it. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. If you're in the Albany Capital District area and you read Times-Union, especially online, you've seen her. So are you a staff reporter at Times-Union or just like a freelance
No,
stringer?
I'm a freelancer. So I blog for the Times-Union and I also freelance. So mostly on Thursdays in the food section, I have a column.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus you have your own blog.
Yeah, I have a blog, the local blog, the TU. And I also have my own blog, which is named after my farm, which is 𝗕𝗘𝗘𝗘𝗥.
Cool. Yeah, so where are you from originally?
I grew up in Shenango County, New York, which is kind of heading towards the Finger Lakes, in a tiny little town called South 𝗕𝗘𝗘𝗥. If you blink, you'll miss it. I only had 32 kids in my graduating high school class,
Wow.
so pretty small, yeah.
So like as we were just saying, I know you as like a culinary arts person.
Yeah.
But you did not go to school for culinary arts. You went for like political science or something?
Yeah, so I have actually a master's degree in history and political science, and I was a lobbyist. I worked in lobbying, and then I did public affairs, and just got kind of really tired of that grind and decided to kind of pursue other endeavors. So.
Who or what did you lobby for?
I worked in-house for a little bit for a kind of medical-related company, but for the most part, I worked in an agency, and we did a lot of different things. So
Federal or state?
both. So we had companies like I represented Goldman Sachs and banking industry, beverage industry like PepsiCo was a client of mine. But then I also did some campaign management and finance while I was there too.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so. But I know you as a foodie.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in food. I grew up with a lot of really great cooks. I had an aunt who ran a restaurant for a while. I had a next door neighbor who was a fantastic cook. She was like the unofficial town baker, and everybody wanted her fried donuts.
Right.
And I had a great grandmother who was a really fantastic cook. So my mother went through a really interesting period in her life where she got really busy and kind of just slapdash cooked everything, and it turned out awful every time. So if I wanted to learn how to like eat well, I had to learn how to cook. So I was like 9 years old and making the family meals with my mother kind of standing guard in the kitchen.
Your child prodigy.
Yeah. So I just always enjoyed cooking, and cooking for me is kind of the most direct conduit for showing love for somebody. So that's why I came about cooking.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get into blogging and reporting?
Yeah, so when I worked in lobbying, Michael Huber, who is the blog master, the puppeteer at the Times-Union, he asked me to start this blog kind of related to that, kind of like a marketing and public relations and communications blog for people in that industry. So I blogged for that, and I just was trying to get out of that industry, and the Eat Local blog opened up. They didn't have a writer, so I didn't ask him. I told him, I'm like, I'm going to write that blog. And just writing through that, got connected with people from Times-Union and started freelancing.
When did you start on the blog?
I think it was like 2009 that I started blogging from TU, and then I took over Eat Local around 2010.
Okay. All right, so you also teach cooking classes at different drummers' kitchen, which is actually right down the road from
Yeah.
me. How did that happen?
I was in a cooking contest there, and it was, I didn't win. I got second place. I still like have a little knife in the heart on that one. But the guy who owns that joint said to me that he really liked the way I cook, and said, you know, maybe you should consider doing cooking classes for us. So I started off about 3 years ago, and it just kind of evolved. And
How often do you do it?
I probably do like, oh gosh, I probably do like 6 or 7 classes a month at this point. Yeah.
So like once or twice a week?
Once or twice a week, yeah. Sometimes more.
You know, so I had to do all that preamble because like it's supposed to be an interview with a craft beer enthusiast. It's like we have to know you as a foodie. And I noticed like people who are foodies, like you're either like a foodie first and like you get into good beer and wine and scotch and all that stuff, or I mean there's certain people that go the other way, like they're into beer, wine, and spirits, like the high end stuff. Kind of like me, like I would come the other way, and then like so it's like it's only natural to like it's like you can't be eating like filet mignon and lobster and drinking Coors Light, right? So like for you was it? I mean obviously since you were cooking since you were 9, I'm gonna assume you went into food first, then beer as a natural progression for
right
that?
So I was underage. I was only a kid when I got really into cooking, and I never really, I don't know, I was never like the stereotypical high school kid who wanted to drink a lot. That was never really my jive. But I went to St. Rose right down the street, and I lived like half a block away from Mahar's, and just thought I was way too cool to drink at every other bar. So I started going to Mahar's on a fake ID. And
the statute of limitations.
And yeah, it was great, and I just got introduced to all these really great beers. I remember, you know, some of my first few beers even there. It was the first place I ever had a Red Stripe, which I know is a very craft oriented.
Yeah.
It was the first place I ever had a schmaltz.
Right. Hebrew.
Yeah, Hebrew. So it was just interesting, and I just really got into the flavor of the beer there, and just being able to try so many different styles.
Now, how many beers did you have on your tour?
I never did a tour because I'm such a contrarian that I just refused to pay money for a beer I knew I wouldn't like, and I felt like this obligation as part of the tour to have to drink these beers. So I'm like, screw it, I'm not doing it.
There was always good stuff. It was very rare. Like I never, you know, I went there for up until they closed, and I never once like said, oh, I don't want this beer, but I'm gonna buy it just to check it off. But like my friend Henry had like so many thousands of beers on his tour. Like he'd print on his list, and it'd be like this.
Yeah.
It'd be like 3 lines. All right, so getting back to beer, have you ever done any classes about cooking with beer?
I have once with another chef, and we actually did for a group of distributors in the area, kind of throughout the Northeast. We did a beer pairing dinner, and that was really fun. But just because of some of like the liquor laws and what the licensing is over at different drummers, it's hard to really do like a beer dinner. But I'm really pushing for it. I'd love to do one.
What about just like cooking with beer? Like everybody knows beer canned chicken, but brats, beer brats.
Right.
What
so
else?
yeah, we've done stuff like that before, and there's lots of, and I try to encourage people. You know, you can bring in your own wine and beer to a class if you want to kind of drink while you're learning to cook, which is always great because the more they drink, the better my food is.
Yeah.
So I try to offer recommendations on what they should get based on what we're making that night, and talk about I think that beer pairs better with food than wine does, because I really feel like the effervescence really helps to highlight and intensify the flavors of food.
It's just more variety, you know.
Yeah, it truly is. Winemaking is, definitely a science, and there's a lot that goes into it, but craft beer is a definite art, and it's like a big, booze hound playground, essentially.
Right.
You just do whatever you want with it.
Now, do you ever cook with beer at home?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Like what kind of thing?
I love to braise meats in beer. I love to, like a short rib, or chicken legs, anything that has a lot of kind of fat and grizzle to it, goes great in beer. I just did, with the cider, I braised chicken in 9 Pins flagship cider.
Right.
But like a good stout or a good porter is really awesome for braising short ribs. And I also make a chocolate cake with Guinness or any kind of stout that's really good.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people do like a nut brown ale as a turkey based.
Yeah.
You should try that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, we already kind of talked about, kind of getting back to what you said, like we started going to Mahars. Like, was there any? Did you have like any one like epiphany moment? Like had you always just associated beer with Coors, Bud, Miller, stuff like that, or like was it like I said, like any epiphany moment? Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
good.
I feel like I kind of came of age the same point that craft beer kind of came of age. So right when I was really getting into drinking, that's when a lot of beers came on the scene. I grew up in a household where my dad was a Coors Light guy. And I knew I did not like Coors Light. And I knew I was never going to be that person. But yeah, just really kind of going to Mahars and tasting just, I'd ask Bill behind the bar, like, this is what I like, what should I get? And he would recommend something. And there was always something good to be had. And yeah, I mean, it probably like the first beer that ever really got me onto craft beer was probably a Sam Smith oatmeal stout. I remember drinking that and being like, whoa, this is really different. Yeah.
That one is really good.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite styles in general?
I love porters. I'm a big porter drinker. Brown's whiskey porter is probably one of my favorite beers. I like a good ale.
Taddy porter.
Yeah, but I really like lagers too. I just had the Bell's Lager of the Lakes.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, what is that? That is really good.
Have you had any of the Jack's Abbey stuff? Because they only make lagers.
I've never had Jack's Abbey, surprisingly. I don't know why. I've just never had
Tour
it.
the Rock, they have it on there a lot.
Yeah.
Rare beer Abbey. How about least favorite styles? Stuff you don't like?
Really aggressively hoppy IPAs. I've had a couple IPAs that I really like them, but the stuff that's like really, really aggressive, I've just never been able to get behind unless it's a really hot day or I have really spicy food. So.
Yeah. Have you ever homebrewed?
I have, to mild success. On the farm that I live on, it's an old apple orchard, so I have a lot of apples, and I press I make hard cider at home every year, and kind of homebrewing came as a natural progression from that because I had all the same equipment. So yeah, I've made a couple of lagers, and I made a couple of like brown ales, but that's about as far as I've gotten it.
Homebrewing a lager is hard to do.
Yeah.
Because you gotta have good temperature control.
Yeah, that's what a root cellar. That's why it's great to have an old farmhouse with a root cellar.
We kind of touched on this already,
Yeah.
but what are your favorite places for beer in the Capital District?
Well, Mahar's closing really broke my heart. I wrote a story about that in the paper, and that was pretty tough. But I really like going to the local in Saratoga. I feel like there's always something good there, or Henry Street Tap Room up there.
Yeah.
In Albany, I'm really excited to check out Allen Street Pub. That's kind of reinvigorated. I've noticed that they have some pretty good beers at the Hollow, down on Pearl Street. But other than that, Finn Bars is always a good bet. I'm really impressed with what the confectionery does in Troy.
Oh yeah.
They have some really kind of unusual things that you would never find pretty much anywhere else.
Have you been to the new Madison Poorhouse yet?
I have, yeah. I still have a chip on my shoulder about what happened with Mahar's, and I feel like, I mean, they're
completely different places, though.
It's like if Pottery Barn was to open a beer hall, it would be, the Poorhouse.
Yeah.
But you didn't hear that from me.
Have you been to the Beer Abbey in Schenectady?
I've never been. I need to go.
Yeah, you definitely do. Have you ever considered taking a full-time job in the beer industry, like being a PR rep or a sales rep?
Definitely, yeah. When I was transitioning out of lobbying and going into what I'm doing now, I've definitely thought about it because it just seems like such a natural progression to do. But it's a really tough industry to be in, and it's very result-driven over something that you really have no control over. So I like being on this end.
Right.
And being able to just find a really great story. Like I just wrote about Rare Form in Troy, and it's such a neat thing to be able to write about and to go and promote it that way. So I'm really happy with where I am in the craft beer world.
All right. Do you think the country seems to be polarized, where half of us just eat junk food all the time, and the other half is blowing all their money on organic, gourmet, locally sourced food? Is it
Yeah.
Is that just my perspective, or?
No, it's definitely true. And I feel like when I've talked to people who have come from other countries and come here, like their biggest cultural shock is just the convenience of American food and how it's like, so it's not like there's no connection to the food. But there's definitely been a trend over the past probably 15 years of people really getting committed to their food. And I'm a big advocate for people just growing even like a pot of basil on your windowsill.
Right.
It's such an easy thing to do, and it connects you kind of to the food. But there's definitely a dichotomy, and you know, just the way that the government system works doesn't always benefit the people who are trying to do the right thing, which is, you know, support small local agriculture.
And you think that the same thing from my perspective seems to be true of the beer side too, because like everybody knows drinks craft beer. It's like, but like the big brewers make up still like 80-90% of the market, somewhere like that. It's like, who's drinking all this beer?
Right.
Like everybody I know only drinks stuff like this. But
Yeah, there's definitely, because there are people. I mean, it's another thing. It's convenience and it's cheap. Like you can go, you don't have to go to a specialty shop and get it. You can go to any corner market, any bodega, and pick up, you know, 18-pack of Jenny Light and drink it.
I drink Jenny Bach.
Well.
Let's see. How closely do you follow the craft beer industry, and what do you think the future holds?
I definitely try to follow it from a writing side. There's a few writers that I really admire and really like their work. And I follow it more from that end, and that's how I find out about, you know, new or interesting breweries that I should keep an eye on. Probably more than from going to a bar and checking out new beer.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess that about wraps it up. Did I miss anything? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean, you know, I kind of chronicle my drinking and eating adventures on Twitter and Instagram, and they're both Silly Goose Farm is my user handle. And yeah, I write for the Times-Union, and I write my own blog, and you know, I try to bring in craft beer where I can.
Yeah, so you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
All that stuff.
I gotta get you on Untappd too.
I know. I have it on my phone. I'm like so in the moment, and I'm like, oh, when I lie in bed at 11 o'clock.
This would be a good beer to use as your first check-in.
I know.
All right, so yeah, check out Deanna Fox. I'll put all the links in the description box. So thanks for doing the interview. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Cheers. Hey everybody, I'm Deanna, and I'm taking over Chad's blog, and I'm going to ask him the hard questions today. So we'll get to know a little bit more about why Chad does what he does. You ready?
Yeah.
You prepped?
Yes.
It could be tough questions.
I know it.
So first of all, why beer? Why do you like beer versus, say, liquor or wine?
Because it's easier to drink. It's cheaper. Like most people like beer, but like you gotta have like specific taste to like wine. And I mean, I know a lot of people who like liquor and spirits and stuff like that, but it's more like you drink that stuff more for the performance value than because you like really appreciate the craftsmanship of what goes into making it. And it's not that I don't like liquor and wine. I am slowly trying to get into them, but I would like never in a million. Maybe I won the lottery and all I did was just sit around and drink all day and like appreciate that stuff. Then maybe, but I was gonna say like I don't think I'd ever would have the knowledge about wine and liquor and cider and mead and stuff like that I would about beer.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite style of beer that you like to drink?
A few years ago I would have said IPA, but I've become an appreciator of like all styles. Like, I mean, like we're drinking a 3.2 Radler right now.
Right.
Made with grapefruit juice.
Woo-hoo.
You know, it's good. And I just, I have a book coming out about stouts and porters.
Right.
You know, so it's like people, like when I announced it like a year ago, they're like, why is a hophead like you writing a book about stouts and porters? And I'm like, I like stouts and porters just as much as I like IPAs. My like taste or mood, taste in beer or preferences kind of depends. Like it definitely varies by seasons. You know, like a day like today, I don't want a 10% imperial stout, but in January, I do.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have one specific favorite style. I mean, if I went to some brewery that I never heard of anywhere, and I saw like their menu, like I probably would start like I'd probably gauge them by their IPA, or like if they had like a pretty good stout or porter, like something like 7-8%.
So do you feel like breweries, they have, is there a certain type of beer that you can measure a brewery by? Like, do you think that if they could do a really good
Like
IPA, they could probably do any beer well?
The baseline in there.
Yeah. What's like the bar?
Or like an idiot proof style
Yeah,
or
what's
something.
the bar? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you probably can go by IPA, although it's hard to screw up IPA because the hops do all the work.
Right.
So if you just throw a bunch of hops in the beer, you're probably going to cover up a lot of flaws. I would probably judge them. It has to be, like, I would really, if you're making kind of generic, like pale ales, brown ales, things like that, or like generic table session pub style beers, you can make a beer like that that's like really good and really impresses me. Like, that's more impressive. I mean, yeah, if you can make a 10% imperial stout, like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can judge a brewery more by how well they do a, for lack of a better word, generic beer.
Like a simple, like, you know, like a keep it simple, stupid kind of approach. Like if you
Right.
can do the basics really well.
Yeah, if you can do a pale ale
Right.
or a brown ale, and if you can do any like the real niche styles, like any kind of sour, wild ale, goes. If you can do an authentic German Hefeweizen or like a Czech Pilsner or something like that, like exactly the style, like that's really impressive.
Right. If somebody is just starting off on their kind of beer drinking journey, and they want to get into beer, where would you point them to start?
It depends on their background, depends on what they like. But I mean, I'd say, you know, if all you're used to drinking is Bud Miller Coors, stuff like that, or even Guinness, something like that. I mean, they still have, like, there's certainly good stepping stones, right, when you're in the supermarket in the form of Sam Adams, Magic Hat, Saranac, something like that, you know, because you are their target audience for those breweries, because they're gonna make like a pale ale that's definitely true to the style, but not like quite intense. Same thing with like a stout, or even some Belgian beers they'll do, things like that.
Right.
So if you want to get into good beer, Sam Adams, Magic Hat, Saranac, there's a good place to start.
What kind of style should they start with? Should they start with an IPA and go from there?
Get the mix pack and
Okay.
just try them all.
Okay.
That's what I did. That's what got me here.
Right. So how long have you been like drinking beer? Did you come into it later, or did you, right when you were 21, you went for it?
Yeah, I don't think, like, I never really liked beer when I was like, I wasn't a partier when I was a kid. Like, my friend Jay, who I used to do beer reviews with, did Jay's beer reviews. Like, him and I, like, in our, you know, late teens, early 20s, would always like hang out at house parties, you know, and we'd be sucking down Beast Ice and stuff like that, or anything with the word ice in the name, you know.
Sure.
Or Coors Light. Like, he could like barely tolerate Coors Light, but I don't just drink that stuff and be like, I don't get it. What do you guys like about this? Like,
Yeah.
people like, we don't like it. We're just trying to get drunk here. God. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I'm just like, and I would actually, back then, I would have just got like a bottle of Captain Morgan and just had Coke. Like, hey, at least this tastes good. And actually, you know what? I still drink Captain and Coke today, or Jack and Coke and stuff like that. You know, because you can get like, tastes pretty good. But yeah, as far as how I got into like real, you know, good beer, you know, it's like, you know, never was into regular beer, always like, and that's the whole story of my life, just like never gone with the mainstream, never done anything.
He's such a contrarian.
I know, exactly, politically, everything. It wasn't really until I was in the Navy, and I went overseas. And I'd just be like, all right, I'm just going to try these different countries' beers and like whatever it is. Like, I get beer. I mean, it wouldn't look orange like this, but you get like a red beer or something like that. And like, it'd be like, oh my God, this actually has flavor and you can taste it and it smells good. This is good, you know?
Yeah.
Like, can I get this back home? And I used to live like right outside the base when I was in Norfolk, and like right on the base there's the Navy Exchange has their own package store, like big, huge liquor and beer store. And But I don't think they would let you mix a 6 back then. This is like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. But they would certainly have a bigger variety of beer than you can get in the supermarket. So I'd go in like once a week and just like pick up, like, never heard of this beer, getting it, you know. And I also, like what I just said, started, like, I'd get the 𝗕𝗔𝗘𝗘𝗥, the 𝗕𝗘𝗘𝗥, and the Sam Adams mixed packs. And just keep trying them, you know.
So where do you think the beer industry is going from here out? It seems like it's been, just growing exponentially over the past decade. What do you think is kind of next for beer?
Well, it's like now that now it's like I think it's the craft brewers are competing against each other. But we saw, like, just the other day, Stone announced they're opening a brewery in Berlin, and they're going to open a second American brewery somewhere on the East Coast. Like, that's really exciting. I've already heard people poo-pooing that. I'm just like, that's a good sign when freaking hipsters and occupier type people are like complaining, like, we're supposed to be small and independent, now you're opening another brewery. Like, you know what, that is like such first world problems. I can live with that.
Yeah.
I a lot of people talk about if there's like a craft beer bubble or something like that. I'm not an economist, so like I'm not really in the right position to say, but I mean it's definitely growing and growing, but it probably will hit a saturation point, but so far everybody's on the right track. Just if you make good beer, people will buy it. So.
What do you hope will happen? Do you think there'll be a particular style that will come back into fashion and people will really champion that like they did with IPAs, or?
Well, they're bringing back like the Go style, like that, like was almost gone for a while. Yeah, I mean, it's just as long as, I mean, the trend definitely is in the United States to just do, if you can make a kick-ass IPA, people are gonna buy it. Like today, actually, I just reviewed Sam Adams Rebel IPA. I mean, Sam Adams has been around for like, what, 20, 30 years? They're just now making an IPA. I mean, well, they've done IPAs like in their mix packs, but like never like as aggressively marketed as this one. But yeah, I mean, as far as what I hope will happen, I mean, I hope that breweries won't just keep doing IPAs and session, like black IPAs and red IPAs and session IPAs and imperial IPAs and green, blue, and purple IPAs or whatever. Please, branch out a little more. I mean, you can do amazing stuff with stouts and porters, and like a good example is like right up the road in Clifton Park, Schmaltz. Like they do tons of weird beer. Appreciate their style, like trying to they do a beer that's a cross between a Belgian double and a German Doppelbock. It's like, how do you classify that?
Yeah.
It's like, I wish more breweries would do stuff like that instead of just doing Brewery X IPA.
Yeah. All right, so a hypothetical question. You ready? You go to the doctor. He tells you have terminal illness and you have 1 day to live. What's the last beer you're going to drink?
Way to bring everybody down, yeah.
Womp womp.
I know. Well, a lot of the beers that I would like, I don't think I could get in 24 hours. Probably just whatever was in the fridge. I don't know, if I knew I was going to die in 24 hours, like, getting a good beer, I mean, it would probably be one of the last things I'd be worried about.
He's not a diehard. Don't be fooled, people. He lets you believe he really knows his beer, but he doesn't care that much. He won't take it with him on his deathbed.
Can we come back to me in about 30, 40 years for that question?
Okay, come back in 30 years, people. We'll see. So that's all the questions I have for you. Any final thoughts on beer?
It's good. I like it.
Keep on drinking, people.
Yep. Thanks for doing the interview.
No problem. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Take care.